Hey guys, it's Sad Crow Man back with another mental health update video. For those of you who don't know me, my favorite solo artist is Lana Del Rey. I worked at a Waffle House back when I was a hobo, and I approve her service. I survived sexual assault repeatedly, and I have bad taste in men, who I like in a gay way because I am trans. I grow increasingly tired of this restrictive female vessel I currently inhabit. I am bisexual. I'm not Piper, thank you very much. I was formerly known as Piper Sweeney, hence the channel name. You know, the crow, formerly known as Piper Sweeney. But I dropped it because being called Piper makes me feel dysphoric. I know that's not relevant, I just felt the need to clarify that because of the sheer magnitude of people calling me Piper lately. It is never, and I mean never, appropriate to call a trans person by their former name. Please do not do that. It is highly transphobic. Use the name they give you. And don't say it's an accident. We all know what formerly known as means. And I introduce myself as Crowman at the beginning of every single motherfucking video. There is literally no excuse for this. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. You know, people ask me all the time if I think Melanie Martinez knows who I am, and the answer is a resounding no. I'm not special at all, and I've really not contributed that much to her being perceived as innocent. She thanked people who helped prove her innocence long before my involvement on the scene was even a thought. I came long after everyone had made up their minds, and generally had little to do with how people decided. I only said things that people were already thinking. Nothing novel happened here on this channel, despite what recent events would have you think. Now that that's out of the way, I bet y'all are wondering what I did to get cancelled. The short answer is, Brad Taste in Music disagreed with my video debunking the allegations against Melanie Martinez, and made a huge live stream on it, and then made a second video. That's the nice way of putting it. The more me way of putting it is, a small-time YouTuber decided to take a dump on me for clout, twice, and his sans came at me. Instead of agreeing to disagree, or that I'm entitled to my opinion just as he is his, he vilified me. For those not in the know, at the sacrifice of my ad revenue, Melanie Martinez was falsely accused of rape. I say falsely with confidence because the accuser's story is full of holes, contradictions, and generally fishy behaviors, which I spent 2 hours debunking. Well, the video was 2 hours long. I didn't make it that long to disrespect people's time. The script was just 40 pages long, and I ran through it as quickly as possible. I tried to keep it short, but I had a lot to say. It took me months to write the script, which I read while buzzed because being a survivor myself, anything remotely related to rape is hard for me to talk about sober. Anyway, don't worry guys, I'm not going to sit here, get out my ukulele, and apologize at you. Mostly because I'm not sorry, which I'm sure my audience will be glad to hear. I stand by my work. I did a good job. Melanie is innocent. Stop being offended by every little thing. It's not that deep. Stream portals. By now, if you're anything like me, you've had a lapse of focus and you scrolled down. Those of you who are familiar with my channel may be surprised to see that there are comments to read, as mental health updates usually have the comments turned off. At least they have so far. But the way I see it, since I'm talking about a hate mob and how it's been affecting my mental health and blah blah blah, how will new viewers know that I'm a trustworthy person if the comments are off now that dislikes are hidden? Just another reason to give us the dislike count back, YouTube, because I'm opening myself to get even more hate comments. Thanks a lot, YouTube. Anywho, moving on before I start raging off topic. I'd be foolish to think that I was actually cancelled for defending Melanie Martinez, as I've seen many a creator get attacked tenfold for the inverse, aka defending her accuser. And Melanie's fanbase is millions strong, so I'm frankly fortunate to be on her side. What it really boils down to is people don't think for themselves, and they listen to their favorite YouTuber and they cancel anyone who disagrees with them. Brad is entitled to his opinion, and I'm entitled to mine. Neither of us can help our opinions. No one can. He thinks Melanie is a rapist, and I think she is innocent. Do we really need to turn it into a war of ethics? This debate has been going on ad nauseum for years now. There's no point in continuing to fight over it because in the end, innocent until proven guilty. The accuser never proved Melanie was guilty. So by this country's law, she remains innocent, whether you like it or not. The only reason the Me Too movement accomplished anything at all is because that Harvey Weinstein creature was taken to court, which is where and how these types of allegations should be handled. Not on fucking Twitter, or X, or whatever it's called now. You know, the most distinguished and mature website to ever exist. Shoot me now. Now, I'm not saying this debate can't affect your decisions. Someone who thinks she's a rapist, for example, may not want to buy her music, whereas people who think she's innocent may buy her album 4 times to complete a portrait. Me, I got the cool one that flaps its wings and blinks when you tilt it. The sad thing is that people feel the need to take it personally when someone disagrees with them, and they put this huge moral weight on it when it's really not that deep. Personally, as someone who believes strongly in an individual's right to their own opinion, I encourage people to listen to Melanie if they feel comfortable with it, and to not if they don't. I have a video where I lay out all the evidence, and it's up to each individual to decide for themselves what they want to do, or how they want to feel, or whatever. I didn't grab anyone by the balls and force them to take my side. People who took my side feel that it's more logical, and I do as well. I'm tired of the superiority complex that people who believe she is a rapist hold over those of us who believe she is innocent. You are not good or evil depending on if you believe she is a rapist or if you believe she is innocent. You are just a person who dares to have an opinion in a world where you are expected to behave as a sheep. And yes, to those of you who believe she is a rapist, that is something called an opinion. You believing that you are intrinsically on the side of social justice for believing the accuser's statement does not make it a fact. I would argue it makes you quite naive, actually, considering how many holes are in that statement. If you're having trouble seeing it from my perspective, look at it this way. You've been repeatedly sexually assaulted by your boyfriend, whom you were only with because he pretended to be suicidal to get your sympathy. Then, you see from your perspective, someone pretending to have been sexually assaulted to make money and to garner attention on the internet for their single. Now imagine how that would feel to see somebody faking trauma like yours for profit. And it happens all the time. Even though it's not personal and I don't hate her or anything, it's very hard for me to feel anything other than disgust and pity. Disgust for obvious reasons, and pity because she didn't feel like she could sell her art without resorting to libel. She's too pathetic for me to hate, particularly since the allegations failed to destroy Melanie's career. You know, because almost nobody believes her, because again, her statement is full of blatant lies that can be disproven by scrolling through social media. Let me make one thing clear. There is no doubt in my mind that Melanie Martinez is innocent. If I had doubts, I would not have made that video. At the end of the day, I'm just one person, and that is my opinion. But alas, the internet doesn't respect females with opinions. For those not in the know, or maybe you were sleeping through the intro, I'm a transmasc NB. I have a mostly male brain. I call myself like 80% male. I always wished I was born male. And partially, some of that is because I'm at a disadvantage as far as being respected and taken seriously goes. After all the work I put into this case, I deserve more respect than what I'm getting. You don't have to agree with me, but I have no respect whatsoever for people who don't show me respect. It does piss me off that people act like Melanie Martinez fans condone rape when the overwhelming majority of us do not believe her accuser's story. It's practically unanimous. Being believed is not a right, it is a privilege, and it is a privilege not easily afforded to the accuser in this case, because of the number of holes and contradictions, and the whole Melanie having an alibi thing, and her accuser being so attention-starved she did an interview with a random 15-year-old, which is the kicker for me, because I have a hard enough time talking about my essay with an actual professional, and I would never dream of discussing my trauma with a teenage girl with no interviewing experience. And of course, you know, there's the fact that she used her newfound 15 minutes of fame to advertise her music and merch. I could go on. In fact, I did go on. For 2 hours, I went on and on. Again, the point isn't any one of my points in particular, it's Occam's razor. The answer that requires the fewest number of assumptions is most likely true, and with so many holes to make excuses for, the accuser's story is most likely false. It is a lot simpler than the 2-hour timestamp makes it out to be. And no, I don't buy the idea that these holes can all be explained away by trauma affecting the memory. You'd have to be totally dense to believe that. Again, for the 80th time, I have trauma and I intimately know what it's like to have trouble putting events in order and have entire spans of time just missing from your memory. It's never led me to change my story, it's never led me to create two simultaneous different narratives, and it's never led me to fabricate evidence to fill in holes. This is a laughably lazy argument made by someone with no understanding of trauma. I find it infuriating that I am being challenged over a theory that makes no sense. Like, how scrambled do y'all think survivors' brains are? This is insulting on so many different levels. I'm tired of people acting like trauma survivors are brain-dead idiots who can't put together a logical sequence regarding what happened to them. Even if our memories suck, we can figure it out, I promise you. We're not stupid. If the accuser's story was real, she'd have noticed the same holes I did, and probably more. She didn't notice the holes because she was too busy trying to create a story. A fabrication. As an author, I promise you, it's harder to write a story than it is to recall one, even with trauma affecting the memory. Even the most intricate novels have holes in them. I should know, because that's why I had that long break after I went homeless. I was writing down everything I could and trying to put it in order. There's still a gaping hole the day I ended up homeless, but again, I feel no compulsion to change my story or make something up to fill in that hole, because I'm not a liar. Brad should truly be ashamed of himself for using his platform to uplift one of the biggest traitors of the Me Too movement. Every time we give people like you-know-whom's detention, it makes it harder for real victims to get taken seriously. Anywho, I always felt like cancel culture was stupid, especially after I saw Dorian, of Herbs and Altars, getting canceled for calling a kawaii outfit Lolita after Tyler, Scarfing Scarves, made a rude video about him. Naturally, the Lolita community decided to show up at its worst, and why? Because another YouTuber decided to take it as a personal slight to misidentify a subculture. Like, let's put that into perspective. Just as an example, knowing what kind of responsibility you have here on YouTube, knowing what happens when you make a video about somebody. Tyler made a video mocking Dorian for calling a kawaii outfit Lolita. This is the kind of world we live in. All my faves have been cancelled for stupid shit now, and I guess I'm part of the club. Woohoo! Cancelled for posting a popular opinion on the YouTube.com. Not even a rare opinion. I just said what everyone else in the fandom was too afraid to say. And even in cases where the person does do something wrong, are they going to be a better person because a bunch of teenagers are telling them to kill themselves? I mean, come on. Excuse me, hiccup. Are we really going to pretend that dogpiling on a person is going to make them willingly bend to the hate mob, or even be, slightly sorry? Full offense. Cancel culture is a misnomer. In fact, I initially earned subscribers from this. I then lost subs due to inactivity, though, and probably spam getting cleared out. I guess I am sorry for one thing, and that's not uploading more. I love you guys parasocially, and I love entertaining you, and lately I've been saying Patreon only. On this channel, at least. My side channel is active. And I know not everyone can afford to toss me a couple of dollars each month, and not everyone wants to listen to me talk about my book or play The Sims with my book characters, so hopefully in the future I'll be uploading more. But for reasons I'm sure you've all figured out by now, my therapist encouraged me to take a break from the internet. I hope you all understand. This isn't me quitting or succumbing to the hate mob. I just needed some time. On a more serious note, I said to my sister one day, I wonder what Brad Taste in Music said about me that got people so riled up. And she said I'm better off not knowing, that he said some bullshit about me, and that there's no way he had good intentions. And while that was very disappointing to hear, I trust my sister, so I elected not to watch Brad's videos about me or read the hate comments that I could avoid. She was right, I was better off not knowing, even if that meant I couldn't string together a proper rebuttal. Unfortunately, though, that also meant a lot of sleepless nights wondering what he said that made my sister so angry. Maybe he twisted my words, maybe he strawmanned me, maybe he took me out of context, maybe he just made a bunch of stuff up for all I knew. You know? After all, whatever Brad did, it's pretty much the perfect crime. Nobody's going to watch an unfamiliar YouTuber's 2-hour-long video to make up their own mind about what their favorite YouTuber is saying before sending hate to the person that they're bashing. Not saying I'm not hateable, but there are better reasons to hate me than because I posted an opinion on the YouTube.com. Now, after some prodding, my sister finally told me what he said, and I'm like, beyond pissed off. Note that this was like a game of telephone, by the way. She didn't watch the videos either. Someone told her what he said, and then she told me what they said he said. So, I may be wrong about some details, but I'm not wrong about the way I feel about the details. Does that make sense? Anyway, I think I handled it pretty well. I popped about 7 or 8 hydroxyzine, and then when that didn't help, I went on a walk to the gas station to buy beer, which I drank, obviously, while listening to my suicide playlist, which is just Lonely by Palais Royale playing on loop. I can't help it. Every time I have an emotion, I handle it by going BoJack. I don't like emotions. Note that I shouldn't have drunk anything because I was on Zoloft at the time, and you're not supposed to combine the two. It's a good way to, get serotonin syndrome and die. Not that I cared if I lived or not at the moment. Really, I'm not sure how I'm alive right now, considering all the bottles I emptied while on Zoloft. I think there are some studies that say it's okay to have a drink or two on Zoloft, but I'm not a drink or two kind of guy. And while I don't binge drink every night, in times of high stress I tend to lose control. This is what I consider a high-stress time. For those of you who are new here, basically every single waking moment of my life is filled with medication-resistant anxiety. If you don't have anxiety, just imagine you're physically always shaking because you have a job interview in 5 minutes, every 5 minutes for the rest of your life, and you aren't wearing pants. Also, you're pretty sure you left the stove on. Now multiply that feeling by 10. And if you've never experienced cognitive decline with a high IQ, imagine running Windows 10 and everyone around you is running Vista, like your whole life. And then suddenly you can only run DOS. Combine that with anxiety, and you'll understand why every waking moment of my life is spent in agony. Well, I guess I shouldn't say every waking moment. Not because I have moments of peace, but because I have nightmares every night. So it's every sleeping moment as well. Lately, I have recurring nightmares about waiting tables. As far as the cancellation or whatever you want to call it goes, I guess it was more of a hate mob than a cancellation because I didn't lose subscribers until I didn't upload anything for ever, but anywho. I'm not surprised this happened. I'm more surprised it took so long for this to happen because I made that video 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I was hypomanic and totally prepared for a debate. 4 years ago, the people I mentioned in that video were prepared for debate. Now, none of us want anything to do with this necromancy. I don't even agree with every single word I said in that video, seeing as how it's been 4 years now. A lot can change in 4 years. To put that into perspective, that's the time it takes to earn a bachelor's degree. And 4 years later, here I am, more traumatized than ever and too depressed to stand for anything at all. This has been very well documented as I decided to go public with my mental health struggle and cognitive decline, and I can't help but wonder if that's why Brad decided to make his video about such an archaic video. After all, it wasn't necessary to react to someone else's video to share an opinion on the rape allegations, let alone a 4-year-old video when there are recent ones that have better analytics. I'm not generally a paranoid person, but choosing me, period, and at this time feels intentional, because I'm in no position to fight back, and I'm sure he prefers it that way, since it was clearly an intentional goal to get the hate train sent my way. Now maybe someone just happened to like my video and sent it to him, and he decided he was going to make me the bad guy because I rubbed it the wrong way or something. I'll never know, but it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I really don't feel like the guilty party here for expressing my opinion on the internet. You don't have to agree with me, but dear God, am I really a villain? For this, I mean, I'm a hypocrite and I have, no follow-through. But at least I didn't drag up drama from 4 years ago to get somebody cyberbullied. I'm more concerned about my own life, like normal people in this economy. But alas, while he decided to kick a dog when he was down, that doesn't mean his perspective is automatically incorrect. So, let's discuss the #BelieveAllWomen perspective. I won't call it stupid because I feel like it usually comes from a place of good intentions, as there are too many people who refuse to believe any survivors, but I will call it naive overcompensation. The sad truth is, people lie. There's no agreed upon statistic for how often this occurs. Hiccup, excuse me. The most common figure I see is that 98% of accusers are telling the truth, but ubiquity does not equal accuracy. The figures in the only meta-study I could find state anywhere between 2 and 90% are lying. That's a difference of 88%. That's insane. So why are the results so broad like this? Well, there's no incentive for the police to keep track of the statistics, so the number of studies to reference is small, and the sample size is also small for many of these departments, which is always a no-no, and some of the police departments used infuriatingly stupid criteria to call an allegation false. In other words, these figures are completely unreliable. The conclusion of the meta-study I referenced, a 2006 paper by Philip and S. Rumney in the Cambridge Law Journal, concludes that we cannot discern with any degree of certainty the actual rate of false allegations, but really, it's a moot point for several reasons. Firstly, it does not matter what percentage of rapes are false reports, because this is not a game of chance. It's an in-depth analysis of one case. Thus, any number under 100% leaves room for margin of error. In 2021, there were 144,300 reported rape cases in the United States, meaning that if 98% of them were true, that's 2,886 false reports. You can't just say 98% are telling the truth and that means Melanie's accuser must be telling the truth. Though it's an argument I've seen, it makes no sense. It just doesn't work. Secondly, that 2% remainder wouldn't be completely made up of people lying, as it should also include cases of mistaken identity. This dichotomy people have, where accusers are either lying or telling the truth, is too black or white in a way that strikes me as childish. Thirdly, and it's very important that people understand this, these figures are from data taken from police departments, not the Me Too movement. The Me Too movement was started with wonderful intentions, but has been famously compromised by those wanting to score some fame, make a quick buck, or get revenge, or any combination of the three. Data taken from police departments and data taken from the Me Too movement would look very different, but we have no way to verify either, really. There is actual undeniable proof that this has happened and continues to happen. Historically, there was a huge problem with using false rape allegations to justify lynching. It was common to accuse black men of raping white girls with no evidence and get away with murder. To this day, there's still a problem with innocent people of color being convicted of rape, murder, and other crimes, and later being found innocent. Based on the number of exonerations, a black person, for example, is almost 8 times more likely than a white person to be falsely convicted of rape, according to the National Registry of Exonerations, published in September 2022. 1 in 4 of these wrongful convictions are from people knowingly lying, not mistaking identity, but intentionally lying. It is peak white feminism to plug your ears with your fingers and cry, 98% are telling the truth, so believe all women, while ignoring the fact that people get falsely accused, especially people of color. In fact, I'd argue it's downright ignorant to dismiss people of color's struggles. And if you're shaking your head and saying it's not relevant, I promise you, Latinos face similar issues. In Melanie's case, I have no doubt that her being a Latina and her accuser being white is not without consequence. I wish I had explained this further in the original video instead of just quipping that it reeked of racist overtones, but it is what it is. It was a long video and I got tired of mansplaining things. Anywho, now that the police can examine DNA evidence, which is what led to so many exonerations in the first place, it's harder to get malicious claims past the police. So it stands to logic that most people leaving false accusations nowadays would avoid reporting it to the police and thus would not be a part of the sample. After all, there's now a safer way to falsely accuse someone. Me Too accusations generally come with no proof, and anyone can say anything about anybody, and it'll just be your word against theirs if it makes it to court. Well, Melanie had a lot of evidence on her side, so I speculate she would have sued if she didn't spend so much money on the Mad Hatter video, and if the court of public opinion had fallen on her side, and she was also spending a lot of money making her movie, but that's all beside the point. People who have power will always be targeted by those seeking a piece of it, so it's harder to trust people making Twitter allegations, particularly when their narrative is full of holes. Again, I think the Me Too movement was started with good intentions and it accomplished a lot of good, but it's naive to think that where an opportunity lies to take advantage of someone famous, that no one will get taken advantage of. We don't live in a happy world where everyone gets along. This is a world full of evil people waiting to cheat the system. You don't need the police or an angry lynch mob anymore. You can easily ruin somebody's life with a tweet, because there will be people who will believe it without question, no matter how many holes there are. As someone who firmly believes in innocent until proven guilty, I don't think that's right. Everything I do with good intentions and a heck of a lot of research. I don't need bad taste in music fans to see that. I only need my own viewers to know that I would never accuse someone of lying without substantial evidence, which I provided. I don't feel like that makes me a villain. If anything, I think people who lie about rape should be ashamed of themselves for making it harder for actual rape victims to get taken seriously. And while I'm on this topic, no, I don't feel like I'm evil for applying forensic psychology to the accuser in regards to her borderline personality disorder, which is something that, one, she made public of her own accord, and two, I have, and therefore intimately understand. The diagnostic criteria of BPD isn't there for decorations. Coming from personal experience and also my degree, I assure you that borderlines will act like borderlines. It's not a cutesy quirk, it's a painful personality disorder for both the sufferer and the people around them. I can hardly believe how easily offended people are nowadays. I think I know my own f***ing disorder better than a bunch of easily offended brats do. Like, I can't make this shit up at this point. I got accused of stigmatizing borderline personality disorder for listing off the relevant diagnostic criteria. What am I supposed to do? Give in to toxic positivity because otherwise I'll risk offending someone? Pretend you can have a disorder with no symptoms of that disorder? Pretend that we don't have heightened emotions and unstable relationships? F*** you. I'd rather burrow into the Earth's core to die than pretend BPD is a fun little happy quirky disorder with no major consequences in my life and the lives of others around me. And can I just say, as someone who has borderline personality disorder, I find it annoying that Brad decided me sharing my piece on it is offensive. Not even that what I said was wrong, but that it's too offensive to speak the truth about my own disorder and how the accuser having it contextualizes the case. It makes me want to jump off a bridge, seriously. I didn't say a damn thing that was unreasonable. Of course, then again, that's probably why people are mad, because in my experience, nothing makes people angrier than when you're right. Nowadays, if you can't beat an argument, you just call it offensive. I wish I was exaggerating or kidding there, but nope, that's just how it is nowadays. If you can't beat an argument, you call it offensive. Now, while I admit I made that video in anger and fed into outrage culture as a result, which is something I regret, I did not take it lightly. I read the accuser's entire Twitter before making that video. Like, do you know how brain dead I was after reading all those tweets, or zeets, or whatever they're called now? To think people complain about it being 2 hours long. 2 hours is nothing compared to the months I spent researching, running thought experiments, putting myself in both the accuser's and the accused's shoes, etc. I have considered making a shorter version in my current voice, but I've been in a bad place mentally, and I'm just not sure I'm up for it. I'd love to sit here and pretend to be an unbothered king, but just because I'm bad at expressing my emotions doesn't mean I don't have them. I'm just very autistic. Though I'm logically aware that all the death threats are coming from loser keyboard warriors who are too young to be on YouTube, mentally I'm pretty torn apart. One of the few things that I had going for me in my dreary-ass life was that my community was a positive space full of people who just really like music and art, and Brad took that from me. I kept this private, even though this won't surprise anyone considering the tone of the videos I've been making lately, but I was already suicidal before the cancellation. After, again, logically, I knew it was somebody else's audience canceling me and not my own, so it doesn't matter or whatever. I still have you guys. Excuse me, hiccup. But emotionally, it's pretty stressful to have a bunch of people coming for your throat. I like logic. I'm comfortable with logic. But emotions? I don't have a clue how to process those. So instead of taking care of myself, I entered a period of heavy drinking and ended up in the hospital when I formulated a plan to kill myself to end the anxiety once and for all. And I sincerely hope the internet decides to be uncharacteristically decent about this, but my bar is on the floor right now. Let me just say, if it was attention I was after, I'd just take off my clothes again. This is serious. I bring up suicide only because I want to be open and honest with my audience. In order to do that, I have to stop hiding so much just because I'm afraid of making people uncomfortable. The truth tends to be like that, though, doesn't it? Very uncomfortable. On the way to the hospital, I was informed that my cousin, who babysat me when I was young, was murdered, and to this day they still haven't arrested the guy who obviously did it, so that's pretty f***ed up. Let's not talk about that, though, because that's way off topic. Anyway, the hospital, it was rather gloomy. The main hospital is very nice, but the behavioral unit was a bleak hellscape with plastic furniture bolted to the ground. My first night there, I cried. I don't understand how one is expected to heal in an environment like that. My anxiety definitely didn't go away, though it did lessen because I was away from everything for once. At first, no one really took me seriously. It's hard to talk about cancellations with therapists because they generally haven't experienced anything like it. It's very much a YouTuber problem. The average person has no idea how stressful it is. They think you can just turn off the computer and it goes away. The only solution any of them seemed to come up with was leaving YouTube, and I of course refused. If I wasn't going to kill myself, at least not yet anyway, then I didn't want to run away. That doesn't sound like any more of a solution than killing myself would be. By the time it was time to go back home again, I was more nervous than before, and that's when they finally started to realize, oh, we can't release this patient like this, and then they put me on a new medication for anxiety at the 11th hour. I wasn't given any more benzos, unfortunately, so I guess I'll just have to stay miserable as I wait for the medication to build up in my system. Then, after I got out of the hospital, my aunt died. So I'm at my limit already, and I think if people could stop dying, that would make living a lot easier, thanks. If anyone else in my family even thinks about dying at this point, I will kill them. Like, come on. Yeah, I grieve weird. Don't judge me. I get angry. But anyway. On the bright side, the medication is working. It's just not built in my system enough yet. I've been coping with my suicidal thoughts by teaching myself the song The Art of Suicide by Emily Autumn. I relate to that song now more than ever, though I've always loved it ever since I was a teenager, and learning it has been a tremendous comfort for me. I'm still a bit clumsy with it, and I haven't been singing often enough to really get good at it, but it's helping me vent, and that's what counts, I guess. I'm surprised anyone likes my singing voice because I hate it. I hate everything about myself, though. In other news, I've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder on top of my post-traumatic stress disorder, and they also diagnosed me with BPD at the psych ward, so, like, officially this time, not just talking about it and being afraid to diagnose me with it because of the stigma or whatever. So my diagnosis list is now longer than Elijah's, and he's like a figment of my imagination who I specifically designed to be a train wreck. Okay, I have PTSD, generalized anxiety disorder, autism, ADHD, borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, insomnia. When am I finally going to die? I yearn for the sweet release of death. And guess what? I'm not done yet. I'm not done listing them off yet because we got number 8. Excuse me, hiccup. I still haven't been diagnosed with gender dysphoria yet, but I haven't talked about it with anyone other than my therapist because I'm afraid of transphobia. Lately, though, I have been thinking about living the rest of my life as a man, so I should probably get on that. So they can help me make up my mind, but if I can't even afford food hardly, how am I supposed to afford top and bottom surgery? I doubt my insurance would cover that. It's a lot of money to pay, and I'll probably just end up looking like the twink version of Johnny Depp or something. I don't know, I've just had a lot of people tell me I look like Johnny Depp. I don't really see it, though. I think I look just enough like him to where I could pull off a Jack Sparrow cosplay, and that's about it. Sorry, guys. I just don't agree. I don't see it. In other news, I'm such a sorry ass fuck. This video is sponsored by me. I haven't earned decent ad revenue in months because I had to take a therapist-ordered break from the YouTube.com. I got a job waiting tables, but it's just not enough for an apartment. Plus, I blew all my money on food and Lana Del Rey tickets. Lana Del Rey tickets being the greater necessity out of the two, obviously. So, if you really enjoy my work, please consider supporting me on Patreon. I've been dangerously reliant on my credit card to stay afloat lately, so I'm kind of in this situation where every dollar makes a difference. I'm begging you guys for help. It's so sad. I'll be the first to admit that. I guess now would be a good time to remind everyone that I also have a store with lots of prints, t-shirts, and some other interesting items like mugs and laptop cases, all designed by me. If you want a cool wall like mine with a bunch of wall posters all over it, I recommend investing in some of my mini prints. I also have larger size prints, so if there's any original art that I've done that you really want on your wall, now would be a great time to put it on your wall. I regrettably inform you that shipping is expensive, but even domestically, but just consider it a tip to me because I do get that money. It's that way because I was losing money off of international orders, so I had to make the shipping high, and I couldn't figure out how to change it. So yeah, just consider it a tip to me. Sorry about that. Okay, let's get back to the video. Once I got back from the psych ward, no, actually I think a little before that. My memory is post-traumatic cheese, sorry. Yeah, it was before. I asked my Discord for people to moderate my videos. Excuse me. I've been avoiding it because the only way to navigate to the page where I add moderators involves seeing my latest comments, which I don't want to do because duh. So if you're one of the people who I approve to be a moderator, don't worry, your time in the sun will come. You will soon be able to get drunk off power and block whomever pisses you off. I'm just not ready yet. Sorry, UWU. But yeah, I have about 5 to 7 volunteers, and I haven't looked at my comments section, but I'm imagining an avalanche that will take forever to wade through. So thanks again to all my volunteer moderators. My mental health just hasn't been good enough to moderate that. I realized that after I made my last video about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and the comment section was obviously intrinsically triggering, so I just turned it off because I couldn't handle reading it to moderate it. Plus, some people were leaving some of the most disgusting comments known to man on it. This was over a year ago, and I'm doing even worse now because of how people are acting. I'm really sick of people calling Melanie Martinez fans rapists and rape apologists just because we don't believe her accuser. It's ridiculous. A rape apologist is someone who thinks rape is okay, and I'm literally a survivor. I will never be okay with rape, and it pisses me off that people are accusing me of such. It's also incredibly triggering for me when so many people approach me to talk about rape. So I've been thinking a lot about the times I've been sexually assaulted, how helpless I felt, and how painful it was. So I'm caught in this odd purgatory where I don't want to be online when I'm getting harassed about rape, but I also don't want to let a Brad ruin my sorry-ass life. He's the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak, but if I kill myself, he wins, and I don't want that. Besides, I slowly started telling people around me what happened and found that refreshingly, even people who were strangers to me beforehand didn't judge me for holding the belief that Melanie was innocent. Canceling people for believing Melanie is innocent is a chronically online action. A few even told me they were familiar with the case, and note that I didn't try to force an opinion down anyone's throat or try to sway anyone to my side. I always just told the story in the most neutral way possible. Melanie was accused of rape. I laid out the evidence because I believe she's innocent, and some Brad made 2 videos about me 4 years later, and now his audience is attacking me. And people are disgusted by Brad. And I just got a new job waiting tables, by the way, so it's spread around work that I have a YouTube channel, so I've had to tell this story 1,000 times now to explain why I get so many hate comments. And so far, no one in person has called me a rapist or told me to kill myself. It seems like it's something only Brad fans do. And the people closest to me have my back. Even my doctor hates Brad now, so maybe it's time for me to let all this go somehow. And before anybody asks, no, I won't be remaking the Tim video or the Tim vid sequel. First of all, it's bad enough Brad necromancy, this 4-year-old drama, because I promise you the people I featured in that video don't want this anymore. I censored Tedwin's name, and guess how many haters I managed to stop by doing that? Maybe 6 or 7. People must have recognized him or something, because I disguised his name. But yeah, crybabies are dedicated when it comes to hunting down the people who try to ruin Mel's career. The man was bullied, and so was Melanie's accuser. Second, the drama is 6 years old in total. It's time to stop bullying the accuser. Again, critique is fine, but bullying is not. An apology that is definitely not a hoax would be nice, but her reputation is pretty much shot now, especially since her former friend, who shall not be named, despite misgendering me and insulting me when the deep dive came out, has since come forward to say that Timothy was lying all along, and that's the closest thing I'm ever going to get to an apology. The drama is beyond dead. Everyone can go home now. Third, I don't feel like Brad's videos are better than mine in any way. It would be like going out of my way to step on a worm or something. When I made that video 4 years ago, that was my mic drop, and it will remain that way forever. I never want to talk about rape again unless I feel comfortable enough with sharing my own story, which I probably won't. Because, I know you guys are biased in my favor, but it's hard to talk about because he was so popular and loved in the school, and he made friends everywhere he went, and there I am, quiet and autistic and all that. So yeah, it's just really hard to talk about, because I'm still deep down afraid that everyone will take his side, but anyway. Enough about that. I may also cover the Girlwood allegations because I did look into it and found it worth talking about still after all this time because it's just an interesting case. But that's not a promise. I'll probably forget about it because that's what I tend to do. I start videos and then forget them. And fourthly, if I'm being entirely candid here, I don't want my channel, The Crow F Caps, to go to war with Brad Taste in Music. Yes, it would draw a ton of new viewers to my channel, which would be great, but I don't want to grow like that, I want to create original content that people will actually enjoy. I don't want to create something that will get people on their hate train and all that, Growing my channel through starting a bunch of drama, it's just not my taste. This will be the only video I make on Brad Taste in Music and the hate train he sent my way. And if he decides to react and make a third video on me, I will quietly report him for harassment. I am not a news story. I am not part of this case, and it's completely unnecessary to make videos on me. That's how I see it. You see, I think he got me canceled on purpose. I think he made that video knowing and rejoicing in the inevitable hate train. After all, he made 2 videos on me after I said I was going through a hard time, and his channel is twice the size of mine. That's a major punching down. I'm not going to give someone like that the benefit of a doubt. But before this video ends, I want to say one more thing, and it's very important, so please listen. Please, please, please don't cyberbully Brad. You can tear his opinions apart and criticize his irresponsibility all you want, but please don't cross that line, That's not what I want. Not that I can stop anyone who's determined to send him hate, but I think you guys are better than that. Yes, his audience ripped me to shreds, partly for being trans and non-binary, but no punching down, okay? Again, I think you guys are better than that. Please don't disappoint me. If you want to support me, please consider subscribing to my channel instead. I'm close to getting that play button and I really want it. Like, it's even on my vision board. Hanging a play button on my wall would make me way happier than bullying ever would. So please, I'm begging you, no bullying. Critiquing is fine, but no bullying. Help me prove that my audience is the loving, open-minded group of people I think you are. Oh, wow. I had a lot more to say about this than I thought I did. My throat is so raw right now. So here I am, miserable as all hell, but still hanging on somehow. Like I said, I want to make videos people will actually enjoy, and more is on the way. For example, the one I was making on Oliver Tree is still coming. I just forgot about it because of all the stuff that was going on, Brad and all, and, my family dying and all that. And I'll be sure to post more song analyses on Melanie's songs, and I also want to start this new thing where I spotlight smaller artists that I want to get more exposure, and blah 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 blah. So please rate, subscribe, and blessed be, motherfuckers. See y'all. Bye.